All right, guys, let's see if I can zoom in here a little bit so you guys can see it better. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to walk you through the back of my camera and the settings that I have set up in my camera. I shoot my camera the same every single time, okay? I just did this session. You can see that I don't underexpose my photos ever. They are always bright enough that you can see every detail of the subject. The sky's not too blown out that you can still see the color. Let's see if it'll show you. So I shot this at 1/640. My f-stop was 2.8 and my ISO was 640. So my ISO wasn't very high. And you guys, it was pretty dark out. Let's go to more towards the end of the session. So this is my last one. I had my ISO at 10,000. Yes, my photo is going to be a little bit more grainy, but it's always better. And this one was just, we were like coming off the hill after we had shot, and I saw the mountains and I really wanted them in the view. This one was shot at 16. So when you get up to 10,000, it's going to be a little bit grainy, but the grain is going to be different than the type of noise that you're going to get if you try to fix it in Photoshop. Always try and get it as perfect in your camera as you can. Okay, let's go back to my menu. Okay, so I'm going to explain all these little doodads for you, just in case you haven't, you're new to shooting with a manual. I'm going to show you. So right here, we have, always make sure it's on the M. Okay, sorry, I don't have the prettiest nails, you guys, so sorry. Always in manual. Okay, if you're starting out, you can go to auto, just to play around with your camera, but really just jump into it, get into your manual here. All these C1s and C2s, these are settings that I can have my camera go to automatically. But I never really change any of my stuff. So this is how I change my ISO. I just turn my little knob here and I set that up. You can, the Sony is way more advanced than my other cameras, so I was able to change what buttons I wanted to do what on my camera. But like my Canon was the same way. This changed my ISO, and that's why I put it back, because my brain was so used to doing that I would do it, and I forget what it was changing, but I was like, no, wrong thing. So I always try, obviously, to have my ISO, a good range. Obviously, shoot. So what your ISO does is, it is going to smooth out your images or add more grain to them, but it also brightens them or darkens them. The lower that my ISO is, the darker that the image is going to be. So if you're shooting, in broad daylight, then you want your ISO as low as possible, okay? And then your shutter speed, my 1/500, that's how quickly my shutter is snapping, or closing, I should say. And I think that's this one. Sorry, it's hard when I have my brain so memorized that I don't really even pay attention to where it's at. So the higher that I have my shutter speed, the shorter that the shutter is open. So, then it's like this. So it's not letting in as much light, which is going to make your images darker, okay? So the higher this number, the darker. The lower the number, the darker, okay? So then say your, and so if I go back to, let's go back to my playback right here. If I would have lowered my shutter speed on this one, I could have lowered my shutter speed a lot because he's not moving. We were just really quick, snapped it. It was really cold out. So I didn't play with my settings a ton. I really only took 4 photos of him standing out there. But you, if you have subjects that are moving, you want your shutter speed to be quicker. so you want a higher number if your subject is moving. I personally try to stay at least around 500 or higher if I'm shooting children, because they are always moving, always busy, and I'm not a huge fan of the blurred images that are like coming to, they're becoming pretty popular these days, unless it's, I like there's like one photo that I do where the children are running around the parents, and I make the parents are still and the children are blurred. That's about the only blurred image that I do. If it's just couples and I know that they're going to be standing still and I, want to get it as close to perfect, I will drop it down. I try though, really not to go below 250, even with, like couples, because we're shaky just as humans. We naturally shake. Your camera's going to catch that, like the lower that your ISO is. Okay. And then my little front slide button here, this messes with my f-stop. My f-stop was higher because I was trying to get the mountains more clear. I shoot with a 35, I think it's a 1.8, I'm pretty sure. 1.4. So it's 1.4 is the lowest that it'll go. What your aperture does is it blurs that background. It gets you that really blurred background that people love. But there's times like when I wanted to be able to see those mountains, that you're going to want to up it. But every camera has a sweet spot. And mine happens to be with 1.4, sometimes it's a little blurry. So I always keep mine at like 1.8, and I haven't had any issues with that. And then only time I'll bump it. So to keep in mind that, sorry about that beep. My daughter has a Tamagotchi and it's being very loud. So if you have people that are stacked in an image and you have like 3 rows, like say you're shooting a soccer team, okay, you're going to want to bump your f-stop up to at least, so if you have 3 rows, then you'd want to come to, mine goes to 3.2. That's going to help everybody that's in line be in focus. And for like family photos and stuff, I don't mind when like, if there's someone in the front and then like mom and dad are blurred behind the kids and stuff like that, I think that adds to the look of my photos that I'm going for. So really you just need to play around, like set a, like 2 of your daughter's, stuffed animals, kind of stagger them, and have your kids sit and take photos of them. See what I mean by if your, shutter speed is low, how it's going to make them blurry, how if it's high, you'll catch a lot more of the detail. And then again, your f-stop will make your photos darker the higher you go. So that's why, another reason why I try and keep my photos or my f-stop down to 1.8 is because it lets in so much more light. And then if you bring it up to f-stop over 10, then it closes your aperture. So when it's at like a 1.8, it's open like this, and then a 1 over 10 is like this. And it is going to make your photos darker because when you're snapping the picture, it's not letting in as much light. Okay. And then I'll go over here on the side. Your drive mode, I always shoot continuous high shooting because I like my camera. It's what makes it go, take the pictures really fast. There's middle, there's low, there's high plus, which I used that one time and had way too many photos. So you can do just a single shot. There's timers, brackets, and then let's put that, make sure you click on that. I have my autofocus right in the center. This little guy here, my little red mark that you guys can see on there, that tracks the people. So right here I have autofocus track on. So when a person pops up in my camera, that will find them. I use auto white balance. A lot of people swear by Kelvin. I swear it's like half and half. You either love Kelvin or you love auto white balance, and I prefer auto white balance. I have shot with Kelvin many times, and I just prefer the look that I get with auto white balance. So totally up to you. Mess around with that. And I'm trying to think what else I want to talk about. I'm trying to remember how to get over so I can show you guys what this camera's still a little new to me. Just mess around with your settings. Come in here. I like my silent shooting off. I like to be able to hear my clicker. My steady shot is on, which helps keep it not so blurry. My autofocus is initial shutter, white balance. You know, I said I have auto. That's funny. I just want this one now. Auto. Red eye, I have all that stuff turned off. Spot metering point. This is what I wanted to show you guys. So I have mine in the center focus point. Okay. I just prefer to have it in the center. I have it set to find the eyes. This is my autofocus. Okay, I have it continuously autofocus for me. I feel like it gets me the best clear photos. And I don't know, not all cameras are going to have this, but I have my raw file type compressed because the files that I get from my mirrorless are already massive. So I don't want them any bigger than they already are. Make sure that you are always shooting in RAW, okay? Just make sure. And then I'm gonna show you when you guys put in your memory cards in your camera, you'll see every camera has a format card. I don't want to do it because I haven't edited these photos yet, but you'll hit format and it will ask you which slot. You'll click what slot you want, and then it'll ask if you're sure you want to do this. What this is going to do is going to basically refresh your memory card. It helps them not crash, and it erases all the images and just basically gets it to a excuse me, to like a good clean slate. Okay, it really does help with help making sure that the cards don't crash, and we have issues there. So there's not really much else that I feel is like important that you guys need to know. So I have mine set on flexible spots. You guys can do wide, zone, center, flexible, just with the spot in the middle. I like mine to track, but a lot of cameras don't have that. If you don't have that, if you don't have it where it tracks, I prefer either center or wide. So I think I would do one of those. And then, yeah. So if you guys have any questions about like the back of your cameras, I've shot with everything. I've shot with a Nikon, I've shot with a Canon, And then now I have moved on to Sony. So if there is anything that you guys have questions about, more than likely I can answer. Just remember that you want to underexpose your photos enough that your sky's not too blown out, that you can bring in some clouds and color. But you also don't want your subject so underexposed that there's a ton of grain, unless of course that's what you're going for, because a lot of people do really like the grain look. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about your ISO and exposure, your shutter speeds and your f-stops and aperture, I guess is the real word for it, but let me know if you guys have any questions. Okay.